Hey there and welcome everybody. This is our live weekly meetup inside of the Business Influence and Persuasion community, specifically for coaches and consultants. If your goal is to add more value to the brand that you offer, if you would like to add more quality to the services that you provide, and while we're at it, if you want to, while we're increasing the value for the people with whom you work, receive even greater value back, you are in the exact right place. We're going to get started here in just a couple of moments as we let the room begin to fill up. Hey there, you're already here. A bit of an intro to all of this. On a regular basis, I'm going to pop up in this community and basically do three different things. One part of it is to pop on and share valuable information that all of you can put into use in your businesses right away. And everything here always comes from the philosophy of that guessing sucks. Pipe dreams in theory are kind of dangerous. This is the stuff that actually works. These are strategies that not only have I tested, but people in my communities have tested as well. So one part of this, hey, as you're hopping in, by the way, just say hello down below so I can see who's in here. So one part of it is teaching content. The second is I'm going to pop in occasionally and ask you questions. A big philosophy of everything in terms of influence and ethical influence, mind you, as well as positive persuasion, is the reality that the quality of the conversations that we have, the quality of the communication that we cultivate, is directly proportionate to the quality of the questions that you ask. So this is where I'm learning from you. What are the specific pain points inside of your business? Where are the specific gaps, there we go, that need to be filled in? And that's where my job is to listen to you and give you the thinking, give you the insights, give you the formulas to break past that as well. Third of all, and yes, at times I will talk about the programs, the communities, the trainings that I offer, because that's how we're going to take what you're about to hear and just elevate it to sharper levels, really go from good to great inside of what we do, which I'll explain all of this as we roll forward inside of here. I've got some notes on my screen. Hey, everybody. Good to see the comments are coming in. Let's see. We've got Jim in here. I've got different screens. Of course, Sherry's here. Hi, Richard. It's been so long. So the theme of this here tonight is all about creating content that is magnetic, creating material that actually hooks your clients. And I'll tell you why this turns out to be so important, that yes, we want to be found. Yes, if you build it, they will come is not the entire business model, it turns out. What it really comes down to is our ability to craft a relationship with people in such a way that they want more from us, even before we make an offer. And think about that as being a slightly different business model than most of you in the coaching and the consulting community would often fall into. Most of us, and myself included for at least some segments of what I do, are very much, here's this big, heavy tech build out of a webinar or some ongoing email stream, leading people eventually into a sales page, which is rather persuasive and all sorts of copy and testimonials. But take this moment and think about this for a moment. Some of the people with whom you have maybe perhaps spent the most amount of money, some of the people you have received the most value back from. Have you found yourself in that situation before, where as you were listening to somebody, you were thinking, what they have is what I'm looking for? And before they ever got into a sales offer, before they ever got into a pitch or a sales page or complicated funnel system, you already had such a level of rapport and respect for that person that you were already sold. And I want you to hear this from the most professional, ethical, polite way I can say this. It was then a courtesy they were telling you what you were going to be spending. When you think about it in terms of that respect, this kind of changes a lot of the thinking in terms of where we go. Because I'm going to give all of you a bit of an option. We're going to vote. Because I've got two ways that this can go here today. I'm going to talk about either one of two different options. And I want to hear from all of you. Drop a comment down below after you hear option one or option two. Just put the number. We'll make it easy. That way I see all the comments here. Option one as a business model, and admittedly, this is what a lot of people out there are teaching right now. is to live stream every single day, maybe even several times a day. And it's kind of that business model where you're throwing the confetti up in the air and crossing the fingers and hoping somebody picks something up. So that's option one. That's the way that there's a lot of people who are running their businesses and making use of online media, the opportunity to get in front of an audience. And that's option one. It's just a lot of effort. It's a lot of engagement. It's a lot of putting stuff out there. Option two, not that I'm trying to sway this already. Option number two is that consideration of now producing what I'll call anchor content. Stuff that we have found absolutely works. That from start to finish, let's assume video for the sake of this. Some of you are already voting. For the sake of this, option two is now not necessarily going out every single day. But when you show up, showing up with authority, you're already voting, showing up with integrity, and showing up with that appropriate dash of charisma so that, again, people are wanting more from you even before you make the offer. The votes are already coming in. Number two's clearly the winner here. And I reference this because looking at who's here right now, some of you are in the world of just kind of starting up. And maybe you're leaving behind some other career and there's a product, there's a service, there's a program that you wish to offer. And phase two should obviously be, how do we drop off that bottom 20-30% of just effort for the sake of effort's sake? And I will tell you in advance that this is something that's going to be a bit different in this community. We're not the people that are just hustling for the sake of hustling. We're not the ones that are grinding it out. We don't like to work hard. If I can get it on frame. We like to work smart. Available on Amazon. The opportunity that, again, if we've got other scalable aspects of our business, we've got our families, we have other responsibilities. Appropriately Inherently Lazy Business was the former title, but we decided to go with something more inspiring. So that's a big part of what I'm going to be chatting with you today here inside of this free workshop. Let me break everything down, and we've got some fancy technology, by the way, because I'll be chatting over here at times too. The opportunity, I had to show that off. Home studio. Everything this side of the door is a tax deduction. All right, so let's break this down. I get the question very often in my business influence community that, should I look at TikTok? Should I look at Facebook? Should I look at LinkedIn? Should I look at Twitter? Should I look at fill in the blank? Ask the question again 5 or 6 years from now. It's going to be all different platforms. What I'm about to share with you, the formula beneath it all never changes. If you understand the psychology of the sales process, it easily now begins to write itself. And for those that don't yet know me, I'm Jason Lynette. And to rewind back part of my story here briefly, from 2001 until 2007, I had a hobby. I was working another career, working backstage production management and everything from regional theater to corporate product launches to Washington, D.C. area originally. I'm now down in Orlando, Florida, doing political fundraisers, which is really entertaining when you work both sides in 1 week. We were broke back then. Whoever paid us, that's who we did the lighting for. And I had a hobby. I saw a stage hypnosis program. Someone came to my college and I saw this program, and something about that just grabbed my attention. And again, are you hearing some of the formula here? Before I even knew that there was an opportunity, I had such a level of rapport, there was such a level of awe that was built up, that it then became, I need to learn more about that. So what happened next was that I just became ravenous to learn as much as I could. From 2007 really up until now, it's been the main source of my income. Originally doing programs, educational programs for schools, then opening up the opportunity to work with clients one-to-one. And here's where a lot of this is coming from. As I would teach strategies for business, as I would talk about things that actually work to drive that income, to get attraction in terms of people online, I would have clients who were business owners, entrepreneurs, and they would reach out and they had what they reported to be a fear of public speaking. And sometimes they'd be standing in their own way. Just curious here. Keep this to yourself. We don't have to do the comments on this one because it's a bit personal, though. Comment down below. If you catch yourself in these patterns of overwhelm, if you catch yourself in these patterns of fear of putting yourself out there, if you have that moment where you know for a fact your business can change people's lives, but something inside of you is holding back that messaging, that's really what a lot of what I'm going to be talking about here really is pointing at. So what would happen, though, is we'd make use of hypnosis to overcome fears, overcome the bad habits, and create new ones. Yet there was a portion of these people who were not yet taking action. They weren't quite moving forward in terms of what we had addressed. And part of it came around to the fact, there's the hand raise, part of it came around to the fact that now they were in front of the camera about to broadcast a message, and it was the deer in the headlights, and they were terrified. They were suddenly now ready and raring to go. The motivation was up, but the application was down. Where now it was time to write the content for a website. And then it's the blank screen of death. It's what they would previously label as writer's block. But again, they knew their business can change people's lives, but they did not yet have the right words to inspire people to take action. This is where I started to discover inside of a lot of what I did. When I first was introduced to hypnotic language patterns, everything from linguistic strategies that come from standard human communication study, from hypnosis, from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, one of the first things I heard was that all of these techniques are based upon effective communication. These are not techniques, the catchphrase is often, these are not techniques that were invented. They were discovered by tracking people who were effective at what they did and what were the replicatable patterns that were there. So when I heard that, something clicked to make that revelation that if this is all based upon effective communication, why don't we just do it everywhere? Why should it be something that we either turn on or turn off? Instead, let this become that primary mode of communication. So one of the principles of so much of this work is that you cannot not communicate, which means you're always communicating. So the reality is, for some of you that may be hesitant around the theme of this community, around ethical influence and positive persuasion, the reality is you're always influencing. You're always persuading. Even if it was tonight and the kids were being kind of picky, there's a Girl Scout event going on. That's kind of how this worked out for this evening to be on at night. And the kids were being kind of picky about dinner, and no matter what I suggested, it wasn't a fit. And Dad of the night suggested pizza burgers. We had all the ingredients. Hamburger, tomato sauce, pepperoni that I had bought and forgot about, but it's still good. And all of a sudden, hero of the night. They're like, we need to have this all the time. So in that moment, it was still persuasion. So if you're always going to be influencing, if you're always going to be persuading, you might as well do it effectively. And I'll tell you the end goal of where we're going inside of all of this. Phrase number one is that it's always about communicating in such a way with honesty and integrity so that, again, we're building a bond, we're building a connection so that people want more from us, even before we make an offer. Where the goal of this is, as much as I can be the hypnotic language hacks guy, the business influence guy, we're not the world of clever objection crushers and closing strategies that bind the men. No, let's get to the place where we just have to make the offer. We have to make the invite. And they're filling in the gaps for you because they're already sold on what you do. If this is resonating with you, if this is the kind of thing that you're looking for to increase your brand appeal, to increase your value, just drop the word yes down below so I know to keep going. That's my cheat to look at my notes here. We'll see. There they are. All right, so let's begin to break this down. No matter the platform, no matter where you're going out, whether it's going out and giving a live talk, whether it's going live on Facebook, whether it's making use of whatever social media platform may be out there, we're going to break this down very easily. And someone do me a favor, because I've got the command center here. I've got my camera here and two monitors. And if I type, I am certain I'm going to log myself out and lose everything. Know my strengths. Someone play transcriber and drop these three words down in the comments below, please. Audience, engagement, invitation. One of the principles of hypnotic communication is if you ever find yourself not quite knowing what to do, it means you're in the wrong part of the work. To peel back the curtain a little bit here, one part of the model of hypnotic language is that of gathering information. The other part is that of putting it into use. Thank you, Jim. So from the mindset of personal change for that audience, if I'm now in session with a client and I don't know what I should be doing, it really means I should have spent more time gathering information so I've got the right criteria. This is where, let me give you all a freebie here, inside of a free live stream, mind you. One of the most powerful language patterns you can possibly use is to make a statement about something that your business does. We offer I know we've got some nutritionists here in this community. This is about creating a nutritional guide plan specific to your body, specific to your health. We've got, he's not here logged in right now, but someone in the influence community is a contractor. He does these gorgeous backyard spaces. It's about meeting with you and discovering the right entertainment space for your backyard. So it comes down to a bit of a prestige statement, followed by a bit of ambiguity. As you consider that, think about the changes that can make for you. And you wait until you see the person nodding, to which you ask the question, what would that be like for you? And not to nerd out on this stuff too much, resist the urge to go, what would that look like for you? What would that sound like? What would that feel like? We become even more influential when we become what we call sensory non-specific. So remember, saying less is saying even more. So back to this formula, which, thank you, Michelle and Jim, for transcribing: audience, engagement, invitation. I heard the definition one time, and I love this. I'm pretty sure it was Pat Quinn who I heard say this, not Pat Flynn, who's Smart Passive Income, but Pat Quinn. The line was, the definition of your dream audience is that community where the overwhelming majority of people in that room are a fit for the product, the service, the programs that you provide. So phase number one of this is, of course, a bit of market research to make sure you've got the ideal audience in front of you. Next comes the most important part, engagement. And I want many of you to begin to install a new mindset of this is really the formula towards creating magnetic content that grabs people's attention, has them wanting more from you even before you make the offer. I want you to begin to change a dialogue in your mind. That it's no longer about what can I sell these people? What can I offer these people? It's no longer what offer should I make? That will come. But the principle is always earn the right to make an offer. So then by the time you make the offer, you never have to apologize for making the offer. Some of you have seen, I'm not here to do this, but yeah, no. Earn the right. So the formula here becomes, instead of what can I offer them, what can I sell them, what can I give them? And we're triggering, yes, a dash of reciprocity within their mind, but what we want to have occurring is this very natural, realistic, and completely reasonable conversation. If the free stuff is this good, to get the hands-on help is going to help me to go even further. So as much as in some communities I can be branded as the sales and marketing guy, I thrive when I don't have to sell. When I create the environment where now people already have that know, like, and trust factor. Now, this is where there's a few strategies we teach inside of the influence community, which come around to the reality that, yes, we do want to share some of our best stuff, but the reality is we still have to have that loop as to the reason why they need to take the next step. So a little formula to this is to always know the difference between show and tell. Because I can tell you what to do, I can tell you the dialogues you ought to be building. And yet the reality is, to be shown how to do it, well, that's what's inside of the program. So the ultimate conversation in terms of sales is that end where now, and I'm seeing a bunch of people, I did just have that thought after watching your free webinar. And Elizabeth, you're watching another free presentation right now. hey, this stuff works. So the opportunity where now you have to call it out. You have to point to it to go, see that? We just did that. But the opportunity where now we're earning the right to make that invitation. Where now all it takes is that invite to take the next step. Now, let me simplify a little bit of this because first of all, if you can, this is a problem that I ran into when I put out this a number of years ago. Where's the lighting? There we go. I went on about maybe 50 or 60 business podcasts, and I'll tell you the mistake that I made early on, which was, Jason, where can people find you? Well, at the time, well, I run a local business, which is at virginiahypnosis.com. If you want to learn how to do hypnosis, you can check out worksmarthypnosis.com. If you're interested in my business training and consulting, look at jasonlinett.com. You could scrub too many offers. Whenever you can, find that opportunity to narrow it down to one and make it easy. If you have to, too. So when I'm on a podcast, I still go on podcasts very frequently as a guest, I'll give people 2 offers, which would be, hey, wherever you can find podcasts, do a search for Hypnotic Language Hacks. It's available on every single platform, or go over to jasonlinett.com to get the free resource that I shared. Don't worry about the spelling. I own all the wrong spellings and they all point to the right place. That's worth $50 a year just right there. Every one of the wrong sites points to the correct one. So do you see how now, before we've even turned on a camera, before we've ever begun to write, before we even put up the post online, whatever the platform is, audience, do we have the people in front of us we actually wish to speak to? Engagement. Do we now have the conversation that's now running, that's providing value, that's building proof, that is satisfying objections before they ever could arise, and now in such a way that we've completely earned the right to make that offer? Which I'll tell you in advance, as soon as you get the rest of the formulas to put this all together, and as soon as you find yourself in front of that audience the next time, think about the changes that will be happening where there you are now making that offer, and it's coming from a place of integrity. It's coming from a place of service, because the ultimate sales conversation should always be driven by the question, how can I make this easier for you? And the benefit of this now becomes we really start to write the content in such a way that grabs people's attention and has them wanting more from us. So the benefit of this becomes service goes first. Provide that value in such a way that gives them something. And yes, as someone who does post the occasional funny meme online, we want to bring them into our world. You know, we want to bring them into something where we're creating that bond, that trust. This camera that I use is incredibly cinematic for the foreground, but it does this beautiful thing of blurring out the background. Can I point and get this right? No, there it is. It's reversed. This is a picture a student had painted. Tracy Riley in Florida made me a bobblehead. But that is the poster of the movie musical, The Music Man. And that's right, that's Spaceballs. I've already had someone be able to call that out, even though it was blurry. So we want to build a bond with people. Because think about this, and I'll tie this all together in this respect, which, by the way, I've got a little bit of extra time here. So stick around. I will do a bit of a Q&A on some of these themes or whatever questions you've got about building a personal brand, building a brand that attracts people in. And really the mindset of this is, let's build the world where competition doesn't exist. Stop selling yourself as a commodity. Sell yourself as a solution. Sell the relationship that you're going to create. And once you do those things, you'll have a business the rest of your life. And before I bounce to the Q&A here in a bit, as we've got a bit of time here, keep in mind one more point. First of all, people lean in for education, and they kind of turn away from sales. So the other part of this is, too, the deeper you get into the influential work, the more you begin to realize that people make decisions emotionally. And then they come up with the logic and the ration to back it up. So I can't hide from a good, decent tax credit. We found out that I have a electric car. Not fully. It's the Prius Prime. It runs for like 25 miles on a battery, and then it just reverts to being a hybrid. So like worst case scenario, still 70 miles to the gallon. Not bad. And I found the tax credit for the car charger that basically made it so I bought the car charger setup, had it installed, and most of it's going to come off my taxes. But to be fair, I saw one at my neighbor's house and I went, I want that. So we're speaking to that emotional mind connection. So with all that you do, keep in mind two formulas that are running at the same time. People move toward pleasure and they move away from pain. So in an ideal world, every bit of marketing, advertising, campaigning, messaging, brand building, these are all one and the same in terms of themes. Everything that we do is about attracting in the ideal people who are already going to be the raving fans of the services, the products, the programs that we provide. We want to be working with those people who are going to follow through with what we offer so that they become our next wave of raving fan successes. And especially in our social media world, we want to respectfully repel away the people who are going to be external blaming everything. Oh yeah, but the market's down right now, or here's what's happening where I am. For so many of us in education and consulting and services, we've got trainers here, we've got nutritionists, we've got accountants, we've got contractors. This is a rather diverse community. The opportunity where now we want to pull in those people who we know we're going to do the very best work for. I don't like working hard. I get $3 every time someone buys the book online. It's not a big pay. And then the other part of it is we want to appropriately and respectfully repel away the people who are not quite a fit for what we do. So this is where it helps to be able to know when to tell the right stories at the right time. How to take the influential language patterns, the secrets of hypnotic influence, and plug them into the right formulas at the right time. So now we are elevating the people who want more from us, and we are appropriately and politely, mind you, repelling away the people who are not a fit for what we do best. And perhaps along the way, let's give them a resource. Let's put out some other free educational material, to which then let's end it positively. When they're ready, that's when it's a fit for them. So again, back to where we started a little while ago, and you all voted for this, mind you, where option number one was this theme of just hustle for the sake of hustle, work for the sake of work, and just kind of blindly turning on the camera, talking about whatever's on your mind. And again, we're throwing that confetti up in the air and we're hoping somebody picks it up. And you already begin to see the difference of a philosophy here that, again, let's communicate in a way with that emotional mind connection. Let's build that value. Let's also shortcut this in such a way that when it's time to do networking, when it's time to do high-ticket sales on a phone call, when it's time to build that brand, when it's time to be on a podcast, you know what your language is conveying. The old phrase is, a picture is worth 1,000 words. But the opposite is even more valuable to us, because any small collection of words could become 1,000 different pictures in the minds of your audience. And I want you to think of yourself like a movie director. And if you know how to convey the stories in such a way that you drive them to the right place, that's where business can really take off. If this is something that you need some more help with, drop the word help down below in the comments, and we'll reach out to you, either me or someone who works with me, and we'll connect by way of a chat and kind of roll from there. This is what I help business owners to do around the world. It began, again, by working with people on the personal development side, overcoming fears, overcoming their own limitations and blocks. And as much as that's a big step forward of emotional intelligence, then all of a sudden this leaves the open gaps for how we create dynamic relationships with the people who are in front of us. How we communicate our sales messaging in such a way that, again, people want more from us even before we make the offer. And I just peel back the curtain. In a community I run, business influence systems, it's all about hypnotic influence for business. It's about how to create, this is why so much of it's purple, how to build your own online digital media empire So we have that following. When we put something out there, it gets picked up, people start to respond to it. And again, this whole philosophy of working smart rather than working hard. Now we're putting out that content when it matters. Now we're putting out pieces that actually grab people's attention. And again, just a simple request, if you need some more help with this, drop the word help down below, and either me or someone else on my team today or tomorrow will reach out to you, and we'll set up a call from there to see exactly where you are, diagnose exactly what needs to happen in the shape of your business, and level up that influence for you. So again, just drop the word help down below. We'll take care of it from there. I'm looking at my clock. I got a couple of extra minutes. If you've got any questions as to what the themes I've been talking about so far, forgive me for looking over here, as I can see the comments in two different places at the same time. Let me refresh this. Yeah, any questions you've got, whether it's about growing a brand online, growing that loyal following, building that tribe around you in such a way that people want more from you again, even before you make the offer. If this is something you need some help with, drop the word help down below, or let me know what questions you have about scaling a business worldwide. Many of the people in these communities are folks that originally were inside of a service-based business. And so much of what we can now do now in our modern digital age is that opportunity to really productize a service. Let's take what we do and pull the chunks out that can be replicated by way of digital media. And then from there, create that opportunity where now we are showing up with authority. We are showing up and we are providing value. We are creating that relationship in such a way that people are ready to take that step forward. So this is not about who can be the loudest. This is not who can broadcast the message the strongest. It's about conveying something with true integrity, charisma, attraction, and authority inside of the audience that you wish to speak to. And by doing that, so much of this becomes a whole lot easier. I just got an email. As I said, comment down below. That's different. I got the word help in all caps in a subject of the email here. Let's see. Question was about, let's see, embedded commands. Let's do a crash course on this real quick. An embedded command is one of the most classic hypnotic language patterns. The shape of the embedded command is that inside of a bigger phrase, inside of a bigger sentence, there is a, let me nerd out in grammar. Thank you, Mrs. Antley in the 5th grade English class. There was the opportunity where inside of the sentence is a separate dependent clause. This would be something that begins with a verb. So as you allow yourself to run around the field. And if that was the example, it's kind of a silly one, but the phrase run around the field can be what we call marked out to signify a decision. So let's play with a bit of ambiguity here, which would be the opportunity, there we go, the opportunity where maybe we're presenting a potential client with either booking a single session or perhaps investing in a program. And some of you are going to smile at the ambiguity inside of this. So you've got some choices in terms of how it is we can work together. There are some people who choose to do this session by session, though many of the people who I work with do the program, invest in this by the program. And inside of that was the phrase, by the program. Did you catch that? It's like a magic trick sometimes when it's revealed. The word by, as in by the program, also is heard from the phonological ambiguity of that of by, B-U-Y, the program. So I tend to say this is your easiest trick to start to play with embedded commands, and this is part of what we teach and finesse inside of the community. The opportunity is whenever you are about to approach a verb, that will allow you to then make a decision if the command that you're about to make is something that you wish to mark out. And as you decide to fire off the command, you can then make the decision to lean into the phrasing in such a way that now we are making that decision. So you're avoiding the, again, nerding out on grammar here, you're avoiding the gerund phrase version of the verb, which would be the ing form. Instead, what we're doing here is activating the command form of the verb, which, by the way, very often, if we're doing a hot seat in the influence group and punching up someone's content they're marketing on their website, there'd be that experience where they're speaking in a lot of passive voice. This is one of your easiest formulas to activate your language. Because as you look through this website and watch the videos, you can begin to imagine yourself sharing these success stories. So when you are ready to make a decision, click the button down below and schedule a time to chat. So I bring this up because as soon as we start to mark out those commands, it begins to let our tonality become a bit more influential. And I am leaning into it a bit heavier for the sake of this explanation here this evening. But that opportunity where now we can choose the commands that we make. One of the flaws of communication is that sometimes people are then making unintended commands. And I see a question here from Elizabeth. I'm curious about how to narrow down to one offer. If you offer one-to-one and a program or say a membership, if it's all under the same niche, does that count as one offer or is it better to narrow all the way in? Couple of thoughts on this before we wrap up for the evening would be, if you realize you might be confusing your audience, don't give them a menu. Give you the easiest example of this. I had someone who was a nutritionist. She also got into fitness training. She also taught yoga. And of course was also a real estate agent. You can imagine which one we did not put into the marketing so heavily. So part of the challenge was on her website originally, Elizabeth, I think you'll see this as the example. One of the mistakes she was making was that massage was this price, the nutritional counseling was this price, the private yoga, like I forget what it's called, where there's like a yoga style of massage, was this price, and people didn't know what those things were. My example of this is always massage. I got into heavy strength training about 8 years ago, mostly to rehab a bad back. And I did figure out over time, if I went to a massage therapist and I had them beat up this area right here, that just fixed everything. So I'd be at whatever Massage Envy or whatever place I'd find and just genuinely say, could you just like beat up right here, like 15 minutes and I'm happy. And I'd have to pay for the full hour because that was their routine. And like genuinely going just right here, and I'll still tip, and I'll leave. And they're starting with the feet. I'm like, that's nice. But before that, do you want shiatsu? Do you want deep tissue? Do you want athletic? And I'm like, this hurts. Help this hurt less. So that's a bit of an extreme here. But be mindful when you're giving someone a menu that they're not yet qualified to make the decision. In the influential systems that I stand by, that I teach, that my students are making use of as well, we're going to use education. We're going to educate and we're going to inform in that engagement sequence. Then the invitation becomes your easiest formula. Click this link to schedule time to chat. Hey, drop the word help down below and I'll respond to you and we'll connect and go from there to see if it's a fit for you. So I'm giving one very simple call to action, where either now myself or someone who works with me can then look at the process, and sometimes it's very easy. We can look at an email that they've sent and go, this is the program that's a match for that person. Let's send them to that one. Or perhaps they're looking at this and I'm seeing, you know what? I don't do that. Here's someone who does web design. Looks like you're looking for a graphic designer. Here's several people that I know. This is the ethical part, because we're only ever advancing the relationship. We're only ever making the offer when we know for a fact we can help that person. So Elizabeth, I'd consider looking at what you're doing right now and bring them into some kind of application funnel. The quality of the client you attract is directly proportionate to the quality of the questions that you ask. And this is where now you can ask some pre-screening questions, and this may qualify to the point that, hey, you don't even need the call. I have a digital product specifically for that. Check it out. Or even better, you can get onto a call with that person, use the system that I teach in terms of high-ticket sales, navigate them through the process. Because they're reaching out to you because they now perceive you as the expert. And I think that's what a lot of business owners fail to realize. They're reaching out to you because you have now come from a place of authority and integrity, and you are the person with the keys to unlock whatever change they want to create. And this applies whether it's counseling, whether it's hiring a bookkeeper, whether it's someone who does whatever kind of personal coaching. They're reaching out to you because you have the expertise. And this is where, over time, I want you to start with that sort of application funnel and then do that until everything you're doing is maxed out. And then begin to thicken that pathway as to how people get to you. For one segment of my business, there's one segment where people have to pay a $200 deposit to get on a call with me. It's fully refundable if we don't end up working together, but that does drop off that bottom 20, 30%. I say that because I know you also have children and we like to maximize our time. There is one segment of my business where the application funnel wraps up with a $975 purchase, and that is non-refundable because that's actually a working call. Now, I've only done those things after I've completely maximized the free application funnel to bring people into my world where now I know the categories people would fall into and I know where to put them, and that's why they're reaching out to me. So I would encourage, give them as much as one if possible. And yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. I've been spending way too much time in my direct messages and interest emails. Give them a task. Give them something to do. It's where I'll call it out. If this is something that any of you need help with, drop the word help down below. And those are the people that we'll be reaching out to one-to-one, whether you were here for the live event, whether you're watching the replay after the fact. This is the worst metaphor I should tie this together with, but even Dracula, told you so, worst metaphor. Dracula, in some versions of the story, need to find a better metaphor than this one, was only allowed in the house if he was invited. And again, Spaceballs, I only know that because of Mel Brooks' Dracula, Dead and Loving It, which is not a great movie. It's a fantastic film. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear what your takeaways were from this time together. This is something we're going to start doing once again on a weekly basis. Took a bit of a break over the summer with good reason because I was moving. The floor is clean over here, right? You don't see what's shoved against the wall over there. And we have some really awesome boxes that are out there. Michelle, I want to build a following and stronger brand. I'm the expert, but I don't know how to reach the money client rather than the clients who are unable to pay. In terms of a hypnotic principle that I live by, compliance precedes suggestibility. So suggestibility in hypnotic language terms is that of building receptivity, building responsiveness. And I'm going to give people at times more steps inside of the process because I'll call it out. Many of you are in a counseling or coaching world. The whole dialogue of resistant clients and problem clients are just one that I just don't interact in that world because they're not willing to go through the influential steps, dare I say, hoops to jump through in order to then get to me. This is the final thing I'll drop you on, which again, if you need help, drop the word down below. We all know about the mindset of creating funnels. The best takeaway from all of this is to find those ways to position yourself at the end of the funnel. So thanks everybody for joining me here tonight. Join us next week. We'll be posting in terms of the next theme, the next Q&A, some interviews along the way. Let me know what your takeaways were down below. And if you want some help growing your brand to change your business and change your words and change your life, drop the word help down below. We'll chat soon. See you around.